Your dog is asleep right now, or at least that's what it looks like from the outside. The house is quiet now. The lights are off. The street outside has gone still. Somewhere in the room, or maybe curled at the foot of the bed, or just outside the door, your dog has settled in for the night. You can hear it if you listen. That slow, even breathing. The occasional shift of weight. Maybe a soft exhale, almost like a sigh. Everything about it feels peaceful. Ordinary, even, just a dog, sleeping, the way dogs do. But here is something worth sitting with for a moment before you drift off yourself. While you lie there on the edge of sleep, your dog is somewhere else entirely. Not somewhere far away, not somewhere strange, but inside a world that runs parallel to yours, shaped by senses you don't have, by rhythms that go back tens of thousands of years, shaped by senses you don't have, by rhythms that go back tens of thousands of years, by a relationship between your species and theirs that is one of the oldest and most remarkable things in all of natural history. Right now, in this room, in this stillness, something is happening. Your dog's nose is reading the air. Its ears, even in sleep, are loosely tuned to frequencies you will never hear. And somewhere in the soft electrical hum of its dreaming brain, images are forming. Scientists believe they are real images, familiar ones. A field, a scent trail, a face it knows well. Possibly yours. We don't tend to think much about what animals experience at night. The night for us is a pause. A blank space, the part of the day we aren't really present for. But for your dog, the night is anything but blank. So let's slow down together, just for a little while, and follow your dog into it. Let's look at what science has uncovered about what happens inside a dog's mind, body, and senses when the world goes dark. Not in a way that will keep you awake, but in a way that might make the darkness feel a little warmer, a little more shared, a little less like nothing at all. Let's start with something that might seem obvious, but is actually quite surprising when you look at it closely. Your dog sleeps a lot, not the way we use that word loosely, to mean a slow day or a Sunday afternoon. In a real, biological, deeply necessary way, most adult dogs sleep somewhere between 12 and 14 hours out of every 24. Some breeds, particularly larger ones, can reach 16 hours or more. Some breeds, particularly larger ones, can reach 16 hours or more. If you've ever felt a small flicker of envy watching your dog stretch out on the couch at 2 in the afternoon, eyes closing without any apparent effort, that's not laziness. That's a body doing exactly what it was designed to do. But what is sleep? Exactly. For a dog, for a long time, scientists assumed that animal sleep was simpler than human sleep, more like a system rebooting than a mind resting. The thinking was that the deeper layers of sleep, the vivid, active, dreaming kind, were probably something closer to a human privilege, something that came with the complexity of our inner lives. That thinking has changed. What researchers have found by studying the electrical activity of sleeping dogs is that their sleep moves through cycles, not so different from ours. There's a lighter stage where the body rests, but awareness lingers just beneath the surface. And then there's a deeper stage, one where the brain becomes unusually active, where the eyes move beneath closed lids, where breathing shifts its rhythm, where paws might twitch, or a low sound might form in the throat. This is REM sleep, rapid eye movement, the same stage in which humans dream, and the evidence, careful, measured, scientific evidence, suggests that dogs dream too. The part of the brain responsible for keeping the body still during dreams, a small structure called the pons, works in dogs the same way it works in us. When researchers have temporarily inhibited that structure in sleeping dogs, the dogs begin to act out what appear to be dream sequences, moving, sniffing, reacting to things that aren't there, running, in some cases, following a scent trail that exists only in memory. One way to think about it, the dreaming brain is a rehearsal space, a place where experiences get replayed, sorted and stored, and for a dog, experience is rich and sensory and full. A morning walk, a game in the yard, the particular smell of a person they love. The texture of grass underfoot, the sound of a familiar voice calling their name, all of that, researchers believe, can surface again during sleep. Now let your gaze go soft for a moment and picture your dog sleeping. Maybe you've seen it happen. A tremor moving through one paw, a muffled sound, soft and low, the ears shifting slightly as if tracking something only they can perceive, the eyes moving behind their lids in small, quick arcs. That is not restlessness. That is not discomfort. That is a mind in motion. Scientists who study animal cognition often point out that dogs spend a significant portion of their waking hours oriented toward the people in their lives, watching them, following them, responding to their moods and movements and routines. The bond between a dog and its person is one of the most studied relationships in all of animal behavior, and one of the most consistently remarkable. If the dreaming brain replays what matters most, then the question of what a dog dreams about is not really a mystery. It may be you, walking somewhere, doing something ordinary. Just present. There's something worth sitting with in that while you sleep, your dog might be sleeping nearby, and somewhere in the soft architecture of its dreaming mind, you are there too. Not as a concept, not as an abstraction, but as something warm and familiar and worth returning to. Even in sleep, dogs sleep the way they do everything, with a kind of whole-body commitment. When they are awake, they are fully awake. When they rest, they truly rest. And when they dream, scientists believe they dream the way we do. In images, in sensations, in the textures of a life they know and love, sleep, it turns out, is only the beginning of what the night holds. While your dog dreams, something else is happening at the same time. Something that never fully stops, not even in the deepest sleep. The nose is working. This is not a metaphor. It is a literal description of what is happening in your dog's body right now, in the dark, while the rest of it appears completely still. A dog's sense of smell is depending on the study and the breed, somewhere between 10,000 and 100,000 times more sensitive than a human's. That number is so large, it becomes almost meaningless when you try to hold it in your mind. So here is another way to think about it. If you walked into a kitchen and smelled a pot of soup, you would smell soup. A dog standing in that same kitchen would smell the water and the salt and every individual vegetable and the temperature at which the broth was simmered and the hands that prepared it, which the broth was simmered and the hands that prepared it and the container it came from before it reached the pot. Not as one blended impression, as separate, distinct, layered information. That is the world your dog lives in every waking hour, and something very close to it continues even during sleep. The part of the brain devoted to processing scent is proportionally enormous in dogs compared to humans, and unlike most other sensory systems, it maintains a low level of activity even during rest. The nose keeps sampling the air. The brain keeps receiving what arrives. At night, when the house grows still and the layers of daytime smell begin to settle, that nose finds something different. Temperatures drop and with them, scent molecules behave differently. They fall closer to the ground, concentrate in corners, travel more slowly. What was diffuse during the day becomes more readable. Scientists who study animal olfaction sometimes describe nighttime air as cleaner information, fewer competing signals, clearer patterns. For a dog lying in the dark, this is not nothing. Distant animals leave trails that linger in the cool air. Weather systems carry their own chemical signatures hours before they arrive. A shift in wind brings entirely new information from the street, the garden, the world beyond the walls. None of this requires the dog to move, or wake, or even fully surface from sleep. The nose just reads it. Continuously, the way a river moves, even when no one is watching. And then there is something closer to home. Your scent is in this room. Not faintly, richly, on the bedding, on the air, on the objects you've touched today, without thinking about it. Your dog knows your scent the way you know a voice, the way you know a face. Research into canine olfaction suggests that dogs can identify individual people by scent alone with extraordinary accuracy, across distance, across time, across changes in health and emotion that produce shifts in body chemistry, invisible to us, but legible to them. There is something almost tender about that. While you sleep, your presence is filling the room in a way you cannot perceive, and your dog, nose barely moving, is receiving it, not analysing it, not reacting to it, just knowing it the way you might know, without opening your eyes, that someone you love is nearby. It is, scientists umpire Twyat. It is, scientists suggest, one of the reasons dogs so often choose to sleep near the people they are bonded to. The scent is not just familiar. It is, in a way that's difficult to put into words, grounding, a signal that says, the world is as it should be. The dog settles deeper. The nose keeps reading, and alongside this invisible world of scent, there is another sense at work, one tuned to things we cannot hear at all. There is a sound happening right now that you cannot hear. It might be coming from outside, a car several streets away, vibrating at a frequency your ears simply don't register, or from inside the walls. Pipes, insulation, the slow settling of a building at rest, or from somewhere much farther. An animal in a field, a distant change in the wind passing through trees you've never seen. You are completely unaware of all of it. Your dog is not. Dogs hear, roughly 3 times the upper range of human hearing, which means the night you experience as silent is for your dog, full of information. The sounds you hear are a subset of the sounds your dog hears. The dark you move through with limited senses is, for your dog, a rich and readable place, and at night, that difference becomes more pronounced. During the day, the world is loud. Traffic, voices, appliances, the layered hum of human activity pressing in from every direction. For a dog, this is a kind of interference, a density of sound that requires constant filtering. The brain is always choosing what to attend to, what to let recede. When the day ends and the noise subsides, that filtering eases, the night opens. Sounds that were buried under the daytime din become audible. A neighbour walking on a path 2 houses away, the footfall of an animal crossing the yard, the way wind moves through different materials, wood, glass, leaves, creating patterns that to an experienced canine ear carry information about direction and distance and change. Your dog, lying still in the dark, is receiving all of it. Picture the ears for a moment. Depending on the breed, they may be upright and mobile, or long and folded. But in most dogs, the ear can rotate independently of the body, tracking a sound the way a satellite dish tracks a signal. You may have watched this happen during sleep. One ear lifting slightly, tilting, adjusting, then settling again. This is not waking up, it is something quieter. The ear doing its work the way the heart does, without being asked. Most of what the night brings will be categorized as ordinary, known, safe. The brain receives the information and releases it without surfacing into full awareness. But sometimes something is different, a sound that doesn't fit the pattern, a frequency that carries a quality the dog has learned to notice. In those moments, the monitoring becomes attention. The ear stills. The breathing shifts almost imperceptibly. The breathing shifts almost imperceptibly, and then, more often than not, nothing. The anomaly resolves. The sound moves away, or turns out to be something the dog's long experience of this house and these streets has already accounted for. The ear relaxes, the body settles. Your dog is not anxious about the dark. It is not lying there in fear, startling at every sound. It is listening with the calm, practiced attention of a creature that has spent its entire life learning the acoustic landscape of the place it lives and the people it loves. The night is not threatening to your dog. It is familiar, it is information, and somewhere in that information, in the absence of alarm, in the ordinary sounds of an ordinary night, is something that quietly circles back to the question we began with. What is really happening inside your dog right now? The answer, it turns out, keeps deepening. There is a version of your dog that exists only at night, not a different dog, not a hidden one, just the same dog, doing something that cannot happen any other way, something that requires stillness and darkness and time. Restoring itself, we tend to think of sleep as the absence of activity. The body powers down, the mind goes blank, nothing much happens. But this is almost exactly backwards. Sleep, in dogs as in humans, is one of the most metabolically active states the body enters. It is not a pause between living. It is, in many ways, the most essential part of living. During the deepest stages of sleep, a dog's body does things it simply cannot do while awake. Muscles that were used during the day, on a walk, during play, in the accumulated small physical efforts of moving through the world, are repaired at the cellular level. Tissue that experienced tiny stresses is rebuilt. The immune system, which runs at a maintenance level during waking hours, becomes more active. The body scans, repairs, reinforces. This is not a small thing. It is the difference, over time, between a body that accumulates damage and a body that consistently recovers. But the restoration happening during your dog's sleep is not only physical. The brain during deep sleep does something scientists describe as consolidation. The events of the day, everything the dog experienced, learned, encountered, felt, are processed and organized. Information moves from short-term storage into something more stable, more lasting. Connections between neurons are strengthened or pruned depending on what the brain determines is worth keeping. One way to think about it. During the day, your dog is collecting. At night, it is sorting. This has been studied in the context of learning. When dogs are taught a new skill and then allowed to sleep before being tested, they tend to perform better than dogs kept awake for the same period. The sleep is not just rest between sessions. It is part of the learning itself. Something is happening during those hours that the waking brain simply cannot replicate. Your dog learned something today. It might have been small, a new smell on the path, the particular way you said its name this morning, or something larger, a new place, a new person, a new experience that needed to be located somewhere inside the map of what the world is and how it works. All of that is being filed away right now. Picture the dog right now, the specific way it looks when it is fully, completely at rest, the face loose, the paws still, the chest rising and falling with a patience you can almost feel from across the room. That is not emptiness. That is work being done. The brain is working in the dark, connecting and releasing what no longer needs to be kept. It looks from the outside like nothing at all. A dog lying still, breathing slowly, apparently absent. But the absence is the work. The stillness is the point. There is also something happening at night that is easy to overlook. The regulation of the body's chemistry during sleep, the levels of various hormones that govern mood, appetite, energy, and stress are adjusted and balanced. In dogs as in humans, disrupted sleep over time is associated with changes in behavior, increased anxiety, reduced tolerance for frustration. A well-slept dog is, in measurable ways, a more emotionally settled dog. Sleep builds something, quietly, night after night. A kind of internal steadiness that shows up in how the dog moves through the world each day. There is something quietly moving about, knowing that the stillness you see is not absence, but presence of a living thing growing more whole while you watch. And this deep rest is shaped by something older than any dog alive. Today, a bond stretching back so far it has become part of both your biologies. Think about how long ago 15,000 years really is. The pyramids at Giza had not yet been built. Agriculture was only just beginning to take hold in certain parts of the world. The cities we now call ancient had not yet been imagined. Human life was small and local and largely lived outdoors, in close contact with the land, with the seasons, and with the dark. And in that darkness, there were dogs. Not the dogs we know today, not exactly, but their ancestors. Animals that had, over generations, moved out of the wild and into the edges of human camps. Not because they were captured, not because they were tamed by force, but because, in one of the most remarkable convergences in the history of life on this planet, two species found that they were better together than apart. The humans had fire, they had food scraps, they had shelter. The dogs had senses, that extraordinary nose, those wide-ranging ears, that alertness to movement and change, that the humans lacked at night. Especially, the arrangement made a kind of sense that neither species had to understand in order to feel. Humans, with their limited night vision and narrow hearing range, were vulnerable in the dark. Dogs were not. Dogs could hear what was coming long before it arrived. They could smell what was hidden. They could wake and warn. And so the night became shared for thousands of years across every continent where humans and dogs lived together. Nighttime was a collaborative thing. Humans slept, dogs watched, or, more often, dogs slept too. Lightly, loosely, one part of their awareness always loosely monitoring the edges, while humans rested more deeply, knowing they were not alone. This is not ancient history. It is, in a meaningful sense, still happening. Research into co-sleeping between humans and dogs has produced some interesting findings. Studies suggest that many people report sleeping more soundly when a dog is present in the room. There is something about the warmth, the sound of breathing, the low-level awareness of another living thing nearby that appears, for many people, to be genuinely calming. Scientists sometimes describe it as a form of social buffering, the nervous system relaxing because it receives a signal that it is not alone. Dogs appear to experience something similar. Research into canine sleep patterns suggests that dogs in close proximity to their bonded humans enter deeper sleep more readily and show lower levels of stress-related markers overnight. And so, compared to dogs sleeping in isolation, they rest more deeply near you. You sleep better near them. 15,000 years of shared nights have left something in the biology of both species. Not a memory, exactly. Not a thought, but something more like a setting, a default state of the nervous system that says, when this particular kind of warmth and weight is nearby, it is safe to rest. Let yourself feel that for a moment. If there is a dog near you tonight, in the room, on the floor, a warm shape somewhere in the dark, what you are feeling is not just comfort. It is the residue of something ancient, a bond that predates writing, predates cities, predates almost everything we call civilization. Two species that found each other in the dark, and for reasons that science is still working to fully understand, decided to stay. The dog near you tonight did not choose you the way you choose things. Deliberately, consciously, with full awareness of the alternatives. But in whatever way a dog chooses, in the deep biological language of attachment and safety and trust, it chose to be here, in this room, near you. And as the night deepens, that connection becomes something almost invisible, steady and present, the way breathing is. Somewhere in the final hours before morning, something shifts. It is not dramatic. There is no clear moment, no sharp transition. But if you were watching closely, and your dog in its own way is always watching, you might notice it. A slight change in the quality of the dark, a cooling in the air, the particular silence that comes not from the absence of sound, but from the world holding its breath before it begins again. Your dog feels it before you do. Dogs, like most mammals, have an internal clock, a circadian rhythm that runs on roughly a 24-hour cycle, calibrated by light and temperature and the accumulated pattern of daily life. As the night deepens into its final phase, that clock begins to stir. Sleep becomes lighter. The body, which spent the deep hours in restoration, begins a gradual process of reactivation. Hormones that promote alertness start to rise. The muscles, repaired and rested, prepare to be used. The nose, which never fully stopped, becomes more active. The ears begin to tune more deliberately toward the world outside. This is not waking up, not yet. It is something in between, that hovering on the edge of sleep and consciousness, where the body is preparing, but the mind has not yet committed to the day. Dogs can spend a surprisingly long time in this state, especially in the early morning, half asleep, half present. Aware of the world in a loose peripheral way, without fully entering it. You may have watched this happen without realizing what you were seeing. A dog that was deeply still, an hour ago now shifts its position, stretches, slowly, fully, the kind of stretch that seems to involve every muscle in sequence, settles again, but differently, less absent. The eyes may open briefly, take in the room and close again. The tail might move once, softly. It is, in its own way, a kind of greeting. The day exists again. The dog has noted it. There is something genuinely moving about a dog's relationship with morning, where humans often resist the transition from sleep, reaching for the snooze button, pulling covers up, negotiating with the day for a few more minutes. Dogs seem to meet the returning light with something closer to acceptance. The morning is not an interruption. It is an arrival, something the dog has been patiently waiting for. In its half-sleeping way since somewhere around 3 in the morning, how does a dog know when morning is coming before the light appears? One way to think about it is that the dog is reading a composite signal, not a single cue, but a pattern assembled from many small things at once. The temperature of the air, the quality of the silence, the sounds that begin to re-emerge as the world outside wakes, a distant car, a bird, the specific acoustic signature of a neighborhood in early morning that is different from that same neighborhood at midnight, and perhaps most powerfully, the smell of morning, air that has been cooled and stilled overnight, carries scent differently than air warmed by an active day. As temperature begins to rise, even fractionally, that chemistry changes. Scientists who study animal chronobiology suggest that dogs may be able to detect shifts in ambient chemistry subtle enough to serve as time cues, a kind of olfactory clock running alongside the internal one. The dog knows morning is coming the way it knows most things. Through its body, through its senses, through the long accumulated experience of living in this particular place with these particular people and learning over time what the world smells like at every hour. And so it waits. Not anxiously, not impatiently, just ready, settled at the edge of sleep, pointed gently toward the day, unhurried and complete. And somewhere in all of this, the dreaming, the listening, the restoring, the ancient bond, the patient waiting, is something that asks very little of us, only to be near. We began tonight with a simple image, a quiet house, the lights off, a dog somewhere nearby, breathing slowly in the dark, and we asked, gently, what was really happening inside that stillness. Now you know a little more of the answer. Your dog has been dreaming, somewhere in the soft electrical hum of its sleeping brain. The day has been replaying, scents and sounds and faces, sorted and filed and stored. Its body has been repairing itself, cell by cell, in ways that only the deep hours of night allow. Its nose has been reading the air continuously, receiving the world in a language you will never fully access. Its ears have been loosely monitoring the dark, cataloguing the ordinary sounds of a safe and familiar night, and underneath all of it, running like a current through everything, the ancient bond, the 15,000 years of shared darkness that have shaped both of your nervous systems in ways neither of you will ever fully understand. Your dog is not simply sleeping near you. It is, in every biological sense, at home. There is a particular kind of comfort in that. Not the comfort of something sentimental or imagined, but the comfort of something true, something rooted in science and evolution and the long, steady history of two species that chose each other and kept choosing. Night after night, for longer than civilization has existed. You don't have to do anything with this. You don't need to hold it or remember it. It will still be true when you let it go, because it was always true long before tonight. Just let yourself feel the room for a moment. The warmth of it, the sound of breathing that is not quite your own. Your dog is there, the night is safe. You can rest now. Let your body grow heavy. Let your thoughts slow and soften. Let the dark be what it is. Not empty, not lonely, but full of small and living things, dreaming alongside you. The house is still. The night is doing what it does, and somewhere nearby, something warm and alive is already showing you how.